Hilchas Keilim Perik Shmeina Vesrim. Now the din is that Minat Torah, a Rishon L'Tumah can be Metame Keilim, but the Rabbanon instituted that since there's a Metzias Mashkin, which are Tomei on a Diraisidik level, they're an Avatuma, and therefore they could be Metame Keilim. So the Chacham instituted that Mashkim Tmeim, even though they're only a Rishon L'Tumah, could be Metame Keilim. That's one Dakon of the Rabbanon. Then the Rabbanon also instituted that it depends. If the Mashkim Tmeim touch the inside of the Keli, if you have a Keli which is a receptacle, touches the inside of the Keli, so then the entire Keli is Tummy. The inside of the Keli, the outside of the Keli, all the parts of the Keli, everything is Tummy. Masha'in came, if the Mashka touch the back of the Keli, the outside of the Keli, so then only the back of the Keli, the Achureim of the Keli becomes Tummy. Masha'in, the inside of the Keli doesn't come Tummy. That's the Din Rabbanan that we learned over here. Now, in the back of the Keli Gufa, when Mashka touches the back of the Keli, does all of the back of the Keli become tummy? Or sometimes certain parts of the back also doesn't become tummy? That's what we're going to learn right now. Peidik Shmeina Vesr. Kol HaKeilim sheyesh lem beis kibul, shenitmo achareim b'mashka, that the back of it became tummy b'mashka, is lei nitma teuchen letruma. As far as truma, in the Kodesh we learned that's one of the milas of Kodesh on truma, that it is tummy leKodesh. But Litruma, the toichon of this keli is not considered tummy. And also v'lei ogneim. Ogneim is like the neck of the keli. In other words, you have a keli and then there's like an extension to the keli, which is the neck of the keli. So that also doesn't become tuma, not the outside of it, and certainly not the inside of it. And v'lei ozneim, his name is the handle of the keli. V'lei mikeim etzba hashikeh b'svas hakeli. If you have a keli, let's say in the width, in the thickness of the wall of the keli on top, there's like an indentation, and over there you should be able to hold the keli by putting your finger in. So you shouldn't have to put your finger inside the keli, so you have an indentation in the lip, in the top lip of the keli, the top of the keli, and over there you put your finger in. So that area, which is the etzba shefeh b'svas keli, also doesn't become nitma together with the achordi keli, which Vaisto is the regular rim on top of the keli, in other words, the rim on top of the keli, a flat rim. So that's considered part of the back of the keli, and that would be tummy. Masha'enkin, if you have like a thick rim, and then you have a place for a finger to go into it, so that area is not considered part of the back of the keli, and therefore it doesn't become tummy. It's nachamol. When mashka touches the back of a keli, so the inside of the keli doesn't become tummy, and the neck of the keli doesn't become tummy, the handles of the keli don't become tummy, nor does that indentation in the rim of the keli, which you hold the keli with, also doesn't become tummy. However, nitma teicha keli, if the mashka touch the inside of the keli, so then is nitmu kulam, then the entire keli becomes tummy, all the things that the back of the keli, including all the things we just mentioned. Now, naflu mashkin tmeim al kaniya kelim, if the mashkin tmeim fell not on the keli itself, but on the base of the keli. Sometimes you have a keli, and on the bottom of the keli there's like a base, a stand on which it's standing on this keli, oya logneim, or on the neck of the keli, oya lozneim, or on those extensions that extend out of the keli for the handle of the keli, oya yodis hakeli. Now the ozneim is the part that actually extends from the keli for the handle to go onto. So it's oya lozneim, oya yodis hakelim hamakablim. Is all of them is harezim and nagvim. All you have to do is wipe off this mashkin tmeim vehin teirim. So again, when you have the back of the keli, when you touch the back of the keli, the mashkin tmeim touch the back of the keli, so the back of the keli becomes tummy. However, all those things that he mentioned in the beginning, the toichon and ogneim and ozneim and the etzba shekeh, all don't become tummy. If the inside of the keli became tummy, was touched with mashkin tmeim, everything becomes tummy. Now, if the mashkin tmeim touches any of these parts, which is over here he added the kaniya kelim, which is like the base of the keli, and something that the keli is standing on, which is not really part of the receptacle, a lagneim or the neck or lazneim, all these things, if the mashkin tmeim fell on them, so then the entire keli is tor. Halacha base. Now, until now, we spoke about a keli. A normal keli means that it's very clear that it's the inside and the outside. Now, there's keli, a keli made out of, let's say, sack, which is made out of goat's hair. So that keli really could be turned over, and the inside could become the outside, and the outside could become the inside. It could be turned inside out. So over here, also the din is still that there's a difference between the inside and the outside. Halacha base. Echad kli asak kein asakim v'martzufim. Knows this din that if the nitmo acherav is lay nitmo teche applies also to a sack, which is something that's made out of goat's hair, kegen asakim v'martzufim, a clear air or a leather pouch, kegen akorim v'aksase, something that's made out of, let's say, the pillows or the long pillows, the round pillows, which also has a toich and an outside. Ve'echot kliyates v'afilu kupis u'mashpeles. I'm not sure what's the afilu kupis u'mashpeles. In nitmo achereim b'mashkin li nitmo techon. So all of these kelim, which has an inside and an outside, is very clear. So that if the outside of it became tummy with mashkin, the inside does not become tummy b'mashkin. Now that's talking about when something clearly has an outside and an inside. Even though the chiddush was that even a sack and a martzufim, really the inside could become the outside. In other words, you could turn it inside out, and therefore the inside could become the outside could become the inside. But nevertheless, since this is the inside, this is the outside, so this rule applies that when mashka touches the outside, the inside doesn't become tummy. Now we have kelim which are flat; they don't really have an inside and an outside. And the question is, does this rule apply as well by those kelim that don't really have an inside and an outside? Do we say that the inside would be the part of the keli that's used, even though it's not really an inside, it's the part of the keli that's used, and the outside is the outside part of the keli which is not really used? So that it depends if we're dealing with something that's makabel tumim and hatera, or something that's makabel tumim midrabanon. Something is makabel tumim midrabanon, so then even though it doesn't really have an inside and an outside, but nevertheless we say that the part of that's used is called the inside, and the part that's not used is called the outside. Masha'inkin, when something is being makabel tumim and hatera, and it doesn't have a real inside and outside, so then when mashka touches it, whether it touches on the inside and the outside, everything becomes tummy. That's this din. Halacha gimel. Pshute klei shetev. Pshute klei shetev means klei shetev means a keli which you could tevel in a mikveh, and pshute klei shetev means it doesn't have a tevel. There's no inside. It's not a klei kibul. And she'enon royal lemidras, and it's really not royal lemidras. So memela, it's not mekabel tumim and atera. In other words, it doesn't have a klei kibul, and it's also not. It doesn't have a klei kibul, and it also is not royal lemidras. Kin a shulchan, a table, or retavlish, a ledefen, or a tray that has no wall around it, so it's not a receptacle. Is hail ve'im mekabel tumim and atera. Since the whole tum over there is only a drabana, so over there also there's also this halacha that a nitmo achareim b'mashkin, which means the bottom of the table or the bottom of this tavla was nitmo b'mashkin lei nitmo techon. That's talking about things that are not mekabel tumim and atera. Aval pshuti klishetev haruin lemedres, but those pshuti klishetev which are ruin lemedres kein hamita or v'ho'er sheyishenim olav v'hakisei ukietzbem. These are things that are ruin lemedres, so therefore they're mekabel tumim and atera. Is ein la machirayim v'tech. So over there, since lapel there's no receptacle, we don't look at them as saying that there's an achirayim v'tech. Eleben shenogu mashke behem v'techon, which means on the top of it. Ein machirayim, or on the back of it, is nitma hakili kula. So the entire keli becomes tam. V'chein midas yayin v'shemen, to say measuring cups for yayin and shemen, and the zayma listres is like a keli that on one side is like a tray to put meat, let's say, or something on the fire. And on this other side, there's like a fork to be able to turn over the meat. So it has like, in other words, both sides of it is being used. Or masnene shel chardel, a sieve that you use for mustard after you grind the mustard, so there's still things that are left over there. You want to put it through a sieve in order to take out those particles which you don't want. Or mishamer shel yayin, also a filter for wine, is all of these things ein le machurayim v'tech. There's no back and tech. Elim nafel mashkin al mikzoson is nitmu kulam kmei abgadim. Just like a beged which is makabel tuma. Over there, there's also no toich, and the whole beged is makabel tuma. Whereas the beged inside the inside, inside the outside of it, is something which is makabel tuma. If mashke touches a beged, the entire beged becomes tummy. So al derech zeh, these things which are the midas yayin v'shemen and the zuma listeris, so masnene shel chardel, u'mishamer shel yayin ein lemachurayim v'tech. Now lepel, it's brought down that at least the sieve and al derech zeh, the midas, they have like a bottom to it, and that bottom, when you turn it over, so that bottom becomes like a toich. So that would be also a reason why the bottom of it in the achurayim doesn't really have a din of achurayim and has a din of a teich. There's other reasons given. But I'll call upon the halach is clear that midas yayin v'shemen, zema listis, masnene shel chardel, Mishamer Shel Yain, all of them Eila Macharayim V'Teich, and therefore if Nafal Mashkin on either part of it, either the Acharayim or the Teich, it becomes Tamei. Halacha Dalet, Hamardeya v'Hamalmid, it really should say V'hu HaMalmid, the Mardeya and Malmid are the same thing, is Yesh Lem Acharayim V'Teich, they do have Acharayim V'Teich. There's no real receptacle to Hamardeya v'Hamalmid, but it means to say there is a din Acharayim V'Teich, as I'll soon say. Now, a mardeya is, we learned already, it was a stick, that on one edge there is there's a dart, there's a nail, and that purpose of that nail is in order to poke the animal, for the animal to go straight. And that nail is called the darbon. That's the one end of the mardeya. At the other end of the mardeya, there is something that's like a knife, which is there if you meet roots and that stop preventing the plowing process. So in order to cut off those roots, and that root is called a charchur. That part is called the charchur. So there's the mardeya, which has a darbin on one end and a charchur on the other end. Now, nofal. So now we're saying that there's a din of a toich and an acherev. Now we learned this already before. We learned once that when you let's say this mardeya got broken, so in order for the darbon to be considered, you should have a keilim with a wood that's holding the darbon, and there's enough wood to hold the darbon. You have to have that piece of wood, that piece of stick should be 4 tefachim long. If you have a piece of stick with the darbon stuck to it, attached to it, so that's called still a keli. Now, beneged the charchor, in order for the charchor to be considered a keli, you have to have part of the stick that's 7 tefachim attached to it. So the kitzer, you have the 7 tefachim, which is next to the charchor, that's like part of the charchor. The 4 tefachim that's next to the darbon, that's really part of the darbon. And then the part that's in between the 7 tefachim and the 4 tefachim, if you have a stick which is longer than 11 tefachim, so that part would be something which is not really connected, not to the darbon and not to the charchor. That's the Hagdama to this din. Ketzar. Noflu mashkin ala charchor. If mashke fell on the charchor, so leinitma min ha'etz hasamach lecharchor ela shiva tefachim bilvad. Because since the 7 tefachim are connected to the charchor, so therefore only these 7 tefachim become tamei, ushara eitz tor, and the rest of the eitz is tor. That's din number 1. Now v'chein im noflu mashkin ala darbon. If mashke fell on the darbon, so then is leinitma ela arba tefachim asmuchim ledarbon, because these are the arba tefachim which are needed for the darbon, like we learned before. Now noflu chutz l'shiva v'chutz l'arba. It fell on the stick in between the shiva and between the arba. So then it's hareze klikibul shenogu mashka b'acherev. So then it has a din like a klikibul. So that area is called kilu like a choyrov of the keli, because it's not really necessary, not for this part and not for this part. It's not the inside of the keli; it's the back of the keli. It's not so clear the words, but the Farshim explained that it means that only that area which is outside the 7 tvachim, which is near the charchor, and that area which is outside the 4 tvachim, which is near the darbon, that becomes tamei, because that's the achayri akeli. So that's the achayri akeli. Now, be'emes, it's not really similar to the regular din of the teich and the teich and the achayra, because till now we learned that if you touch the teich, the achayra also becomes tamei. Just if you touch the achayra, the teich doesn't become tamei. Over here, this prat, that if you touch the achayra, the teich doesn't become tamei, that's happening. Because lepel, you're touching that area which is between the 7 and the 4, and that's only causing that area to become tamei, even though it doesn't say clearly in the Rambam, it says, noflu chutz l'shiva v'chutz l'arba, so it's hareze kiklikibul shenogu mashka b'acherev v'leinitmu elam mimke magoim ulechutz, which would mean, so that way of touching ulechutz means outside the 7 and outside the mimke magoim from where he touched, ulechutz towards outside the 7 and outside the 4. So only that area becomes tamei. So legabi this prat, the nogu tume b'acherev, the pnim didn't become tamei, that it's similar. But on the other end, we learned before that if it's naga b'fnim, so the acherev does become tamei. But lepel, we're learning now not like that. We're learning that if you naga b'fnim, only the darban becomes tamei. Only that area becomes tamei. No, it's only the 4 tvach next to the darban. Or if you touch near the charchur, only the charchur becomes tamei. So l'chur in that prat, it's not negeya. You also bring over here, which I'm not sure clear in Rambam, that what happens, the Rambam was speaking about if you touch the actual darban, if you touch the actual charchur. What happens if you didn't touch the darban and the charchur? You touch the actual wood. The wood, the 4 tvachim, which is near the darban, or the 7 tvachim, which is near the charchur. So the Ramar brings the den taka, there would be the din that it's kilu, you touch the pnim, and memela, the chutz also becomes tummy. So when you touch the wood itself, the stick, so then any part of it, so when you touch the area which is near the darbon or near the charchur, so then the entire stick becomes tummy. Mashenkin dafke, if you touch the darbon, if you touch the charchur, so then only those 4 tvachim become tummy, or only those 7 tvachim become tummy. Not so clear, because lechura, the part that's the 7 tvachim, we're connecting it to the charchur, and the 4 tvachim, we're connecting it to the darbon. So could be there's a svara to say that when you touch that 7 tvachim, it also is matami, the part in between, but not the other part, not the wood which is near the darbon. It's tzarek bitter. But what the Rambam says is clear. What the Rambam says, that when you touch the charchur, only 7 tvachim becomes tummy. When you touch the darbon, only 4 tvachim becomes tummy. When you touch the area in between, so there the lashon Rambam is leinitmu elum became magoyin lechutz. And we're saying that the Mefarshim are teaching that it means only that area between the 4 and the 7. Halacha hey, kis shebetech kis shenitmu echad mem b'mashkin. You have a pouch, and then in that pouch you have another pouch. And one of those pouches became tummy b'mashka. So the din is, so they're 2 separate pouches. So therefore, linit machaveri. So the other one doesn't become tummy. Each pouch is a separate pouch. Mainly when you tummy one pouch, so the other pouch doesn't become tummy. Now, what part of the pouch to become tummy depends. If it was the inside of the pouch, so then so then the outside of that pouch also became tummy. Mashenkin, if it was the outside of the pouch, only the outside became tummy. But one pouch doesn't affect the other pouch. That's l'chura the pashtas advar. But medvarim amurim b'shahoyu sifsisem shavim. The size of these pouches were the same. It's just that the one pouch was in another pouch. Avalim hoya achitzin ediv. You had a larger outside pouch, and then there was an inside pouch in this larger outside pouch. And now v'nitma pnimi, the inside pouch became tummy. So the din is nitma chitzin, and this is like the principle that just like we said before, that when the pnimi becomes tummy, so the acheirav becomes tummy. So over here also, when the inner pouch becomes tummy, so we're looking at the outside pouch as being acheirav, and meiler also becomes tummy. That imhoya chitzin oidev nitma pnimi is nitma chitzin because we're looking at the chitzin as being the outside of this pnimi. Now nitma chitzin, but if the outside pouch became tummy, so like nitma pnimi, so the pnimi didn't become tummy. And the reason again is because the outside pouch is the achoirav, and the pnimi is like the pnim to the achoirav. So mele by the outside pouch becoming tummy, the inside pouch didn't become tummy. The inside pouch didn't become tummy. Now, what part of the outside pouch became tummy? So l'chura depends. If you touch the outside of the outside pouch, so only the outside of the outside pouch became tummy. If you touch the inside of the outside pouch, so the entire outside pouch becomes tummy. But on the other hand, the inside pouch is considered not a hemshich to that, and therefore, in other words, the whole outside pouch, even the inside of the outside pouch, is considered an outside to the inside pouch, and therefore the whole inside pouch is torah. Now, ubisheretz, this is talking about it was nitma b'mashkin. Now, b'sheretz benkach or benkach, im nitma echad mem, if one of them became tummy, is lay nitma chaveri, the other one didn't become tummy. That's the girsa that we have. That's the girsa and the futzavais tuis. And really, you have to understand why l'chura sheretz is mitam minatera. See, if you're saying that by mashke, if nitmu apnimi, the achera became tamei, now b'pashtus it's a din derabbanan, it's a special din b'negei mashkin. But l'chura, how could it be that the din in a din derabbanan of mashkin being mitamid? No, in a deraisa normally whenever one comes tamei, the other one becomes tamei. When the pnimi becomes tamei, the achera becomes tamei. And the acheira becomes tummy, the pnimi becomes tummy. So if we're looking at this outside and inside as a pnimi and acheira, legabi this din derabanan, so why shouldn't we look at it as a pnimi and that the outside pouch and the inside pouch should have a din as if it's the chelik apnimi and the chelik acheirav, mele should become tummy. And therefore the Mishnah Melitaka writes that by him it's very hard for him to, he names on that the Gersa should say not im nitma echnam le nitma chaveri, but it should say im nitma echnam nitma chaveri. He says, and it's very hard, he says he knows that the other, in the Girshas and Futzes is not like that, but he can't accept it. Halacha Vov. Hachoykik roiva v'chatzi roiva be'etz echad. He went ahead and dug into a piece of wood. He took a piece of wood, he dug into it, and he hollowed out into it a roiva kav, and also half of a roiva kav. and v'nitma echad b'mashkin, and one of these hollowed out areas became tabim b'mashkin, is le'nitma asheni. The other part of the piece of wood didn't become tummy. You know, there's two kelim hollowed out in one piece of wood, and only that one keli that became tummy b'mashkin became tummy. The other keli didn't become tummy. Afu pishein eitzachad ketzad nogu mashkin tmeim b'teich hareva. If mashkin tmeim touched into the place that was the reva kav, so then hareva v'acherev tmeim, the reva and the back of the areva, the back of that areva is also tmeim. The chatzi hareva v'acherev, but the chatzi areva and the back of it, because you have one piece of wood, one side you have a reva, and one side you have another reva. So the area outside the place where it's the reva becomes tummy, because the pnim of the reva became tummy. The chatzi reva doesn't become tummy, and also the back of that acherev doesn't become tummy. And the inside is next to each other, so maybe it's not negaya. Nagu b'chatzi areva miteche. If you touch the chatzi areva miteche, is again chatzi areva v'acherev tmeim. The back of that, there's the three sides around it would become tummy. But hareva, the reva itself, v'acherev, and the three sides around the reva is tehirim. Ukshem matbel, when he goes and puts it into a mikveh, so he has to be tevelit, is matbel is hakel. That's talking about when it was nitma hapnim. So when the nitma, the pnim of the reva, so only the reva became tameh and acherev. The nitma, the pnim of the chatzi reva, so only that pnim became tameh and it's acherev. However, nitma acheri areva, acheri chatzi areva b'mashkin. If the back of the keli became tameh, either the back of the reva or the back of the chatzi reva is acheri akeli tameh. So then the entire back of the keli, side that goes around the reva and side that goes around the chatzi reva is all tamish. The back of the keli is not split into half. Whereas the keli itself, here there is a keli, this keli, and here there is this keli. So if this keli became tummy, so this is tummy. That keli become tummy. That keli is tummy. Masha'enki in the back of the keli. So the back of the keli you don't split, and therefore if any part of the back of the keli becomes tummy, so the entire back of the keli or the back of this piece of wood becomes tummy. Halacha zayin kumkumus. Shahoyo acherev tmeim. If you have like a samavar, a chainik, that the back of the kumkum is tummy because a mashkim tmeim touched it. V'hoyo martiach, and it was cooking up. Now the question is, are we worried that maybe some of the mashka that went over onto the back of the keli and became tummy, and then it went back into the keli and was matame the keli. So we say, maybe mashkin came while it was cooking. Mashke came out of the inside of the kumkumus, and v'nogu b'acherev, and it touched the back of the kumkumus, and then v'chazru l'teiche, and it went back into the kumkumus itself. Mashkin shebeteche tein l'truma. We assume that the mashkin shebeteche is tor. We never that it's tor, and we're not choishes that it became tummy. Brich Rachmona de Sayon. We finish Hilchas Keilim.